Yeah. I've got a question I want to ask kind of everybody, so I'm going to ask you now. If you could create a female protagonist as a piece of concept art, what would your female protagonist look like in a game? It's a big, broad question, I know. Does anyone want to jump in?
I was thinking what Gems would look like, which is because I was assuming Gem, you were going to have like really cool bikinis.
No, actually, mine. I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking, well, I mean, there's the idealized style, which we've talked about before, where I've said that I like my characters to look sexy. But I was actually thinking it would be really nice actually to play a relatively ordinary looking woman, somebody who actually looks like a real woman, and somebody who looks, I don't know, a little bit more like me. So not terribly skinny, not terribly large, somewhere in the middle, not really muscular, but muscular enough to actually be able to hold the weapons that they're holding and do the kicks that they're doing and all that. Just something that was a bit more realistic. I think that's what I would like to play. I know it's a little bit boring, but I played it. I do like to play my high fantasy characters, but yeah, I think that would be fun.
I want the kid out of Wreck-It Ralph. I can't remember her name, and it's driving me nuts. I feel like that's always the character I want to be, just sort of small and cute.
She is very cute, though.
She is, and she's the fastest racer, so that's cool. But I'm not very artistic, so I'm allowed to steal somebody else's idea.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be able to draw mine. That would be more like a stick figure.
I think for me, I'd have to draw a character that was kind of more androgynous, something that like I didn't really have when I was younger. I think best example at the moment for me is the Mitchells versus the Machines, like recently came out on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a character in there called Katie, and it's like, oh my god, that was me. So I'd like to have a protagonist like that. I would have found that useful as like a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that, because I think we had a lot of discussions about the types of women in games that influenced us and how they weren't really realistic, and like that, how we couldn't always relate to them, even though we did take some inspiration from them, but they weren't always realistic. So like you say, it would be good to have a character that's more rooted in reality, that we can relate to as a protagonist, and that would make it a far more layered character as well, wouldn't it really? I think for me, probably I'd have to have a character that was somehow disabled in some way, because obviously being disabled myself, you don't ever see that as a protagonist in game. Not that I know of or have ever played anyway, but yeah, something like that would be a really interesting kind of well, not experiment, but just something good to see, as something a bit different, I would say. Oh, my questions have gone missing. Oh yes. Now then, going to have a question about how diverse we all feel the industry is as a whole, in terms of what it looks like in terms of how people that work there, but also people that partake in the industry in any kind of way, I suppose. That's quite a broad question, so we could kind of narrow it down to just people that work in the industry. In terms of diversity, do you think there's more work to do? Or is it okay as is?
No, I think there's absolutely more work to do on that front. I think to say any otherwise would be very misleading and naive. It's obviously been very white male dominated for a long time, and it's nice to see that there are changes happening, and that there is awareness of this, and I think that's really positive. There's several kind of commitments being taken internally, which are really good to see. There's the Raise the Game pledge, which is a commitment to diversity within the gaming industry, and it's about kind of changing things to be more inclusive and to have those other voices be able to be heard. And it's really good to see that kind of starting to happen and those changes being made. And I think it takes a little bit of time to see it, especially like on the outside, but things are sort of moving, and it's exciting for the future, I think, of games.
I think you can end up a bit in an echo chamber of on Twitter. It's like, I was thinking, I actually follow quite a lot of women developers on Twitter, but that does obviously in no way representative of the wider industry. It's like I've obviously chosen to follow them because I'm trying to see what's going on in their industry as well and stuff like that. And I think it is, the stats, whenever I've looked at the last time I looked at the stats was not this week, but whenever I have looked at them, it's not great. And obviously, as you say, it goes beyond just getting women in. It involves getting all sorts of groups in so that we can have disabled characters for Alex as the protagonist, obviously, and having all sorts of some neuroatypical people for me, and whatever it is Jem's looking for out of a game.
Big guns.
I ran out of sentence there. You know?
A magnum is what I'm looking for right now. A magnum.
Everyone loves magnums.
Not the ice cream.
No, well, either or. Yeah.
But because my biggest complaint, that one, I play a lot of 7 Days to Die, Kate, and so I'm usually complaining about the game developers for that, the fun pimps, who are first of all called pimps, which is just not a great start in the first place, but also the fact that every time I'm sitting here waiting for the newest alpha of the game to come out. So I haven't told you guys this yet. So I've complained before that I waited like 18 months for a new alpha, and they'd made Trader Jen's boobs bigger and made her more tartly dressed. This time, we got the latest update the other week. There's a new zombie model, and while they already had a stripper zombie and a nurse zombie, they've now added a woman in basically a black, almost a dress, and high-heeled stilettos and blonde hair and boobs hanging out. So they've actually they're managing to make it more sexist on every update, which is... Maybe it's because I keep complaining about it. I don't know.
It's definitely one of those things that's just so, like, even like studios like vary so much from like how inclusive they are. So like, yeah, overall, it's definitely like, yeah, and there's definitely some that are just like, this is not, can't see this going in a great direction in that kind of way. But yeah, some of them are changing things.
I hope I'm not preempting one of your questions here, Alex, but I was going to ask Kate, do you feel a pressure to sort of push things forward because you're female working in this industry? We've talked a bit about the pressures on everyone really to be sort of like the representative. Do you feel that, or do you?
A little bit, I suppose. I'm kind of more so like, I'm also gay, so like more so on that front, I think. So a little bit, but it's not a huge. It's more about, for me, like, I kind of want to take that role on now because as to be a role model for younger generations and people coming up the ranks. So that's my motivations for kind of wanting to, push those forwards rather than, so I suppose so. But yeah, it's not a huge pressure, just like a little one.
It's really positive to hear that you want to be a role model, though. I think we definitely all can work in that way, certainly, in promoting things that are important to us as well. And a lot of those things are obviously, as you know, we all are intersectional feminists, so we promote that a lot, and obviously other things as well. But yeah, I think we can all do things to help in terms of making things more inclusive wherever we are in the world. But it takes a lot of us all banding together, which is the tricky thing.